excited to announce that more people are coming along to join us on this amazing way of life that is homeschool. Welcome back to Making Everyday Magic. My name is Shauna, and if you are new here, we're a homeschooling family of 4. We're in our 8th year of homeschooling, so sometimes I feel a little bit qualified to talk on these things. We have a 7th grader and a 3rd grader, and we have actually entered our 4th quarter of the 2024-2025 school year. Today, I want to talk to those of you who are considering this way of life. So if you are thinking about homeschooling, start here. Before we go any further, guys, please scroll down, hit the big red subscribe button, turn on that bell for notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. As always, you can find me right on down in the comments or over on Instagram at Making Everyday Magic. Like I said, this video is for those of you who are coming to homeschooling, who are thinking about homeschooling, who have started considering that you would be homeschoolers. So just a quick background on my homeschooling experience. We actually chose this way of life 8 years ago. On purpose. We were not the people who started homeschooling because of the pandemic. But every single thing that has happened since we started our journey to now, every little hiccup, every bump in the road, every political shift, everything, every single time something happens, I'm like, woo! If we didn't already, this would have been what made me start homeschooling. So we just chose this initially because we felt like it was by far the best choice for, at the time, our single learner. And we just have never looked back. I do ascribe to the train of thought that this is collaborative, so it only works as long as everybody's on board. And we are constantly reevaluating where we are, where we want to be, and if this is still the right fit for us. Because, and I think I'm going to film a video on this soon, I get kind of stressed out with big commitments. So I like to make micro commitments. So if this is just the right decision for right now, that is good enough for me. So we currently have a 7th grader who has been homeschooled since kindergarten and a 3rd grader who has been homeschooled since pre-K because, well, that one was the wonderful global panda that sent everyone home for many, 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 many weeks and years. So why homeschooling? Families choose to homeschool for many different reasons. Mine was wanting to make sure that my child's education was always as much as it could be. We could provide her with the best education by tailoring an educational model to her. And we chose that path. And she started out a little ahead of her peers. And we just knew we wanted to keep her that way. So as long as we could, we figured it was the right answer. But I mean, flexibility is amazing. Being able to live real life, being able to do fun things during the day, quality time with my kids, cheaper vacations because you can travel while school is in session. All of these things are really, really great reasons that we do homeschool. Today, in today's political climate, it could be that you don't want the government to have as much say in the education of your child. It could be that you don't want the other constituents in your districts to have as much say over what your child is reading, what's posted in the classroom, any of those things. There are a lot of reasons right now to homeschool, and I think there are a lot of reasons right now why secular homeschool is growing. So welcome. Many of you could be new here. Many of you maybe not so much. And many of you, maybe you're just new-ish. You've been here for a little while. I do want to tell you that homeschooling is not perfect. It is, I wouldn't say it's hard. I think I don't have anything to compare it to. So other than my own public school life, I don't have any experience of getting everybody up and out the door, which seems just impossible in my brain to get everybody up and out and where they need to be by like 9 a.m. I can't, just on a consistent basis. But it's not easy. It's not hard. It's not perfect, but it's amazing. So I think you just have to decide for yourself if it's willing to try. But in the meantime, let's talk about a few more things. First of all, if you are listening to, there's always just a few myths that prevail when it comes to homeschooling. So You do not have to be a certified teacher, at least especially here in this state. And we'll talk about this in a minute, but you do not have to be a certified teacher. Homeschoolers aren't socialized. That is like the biggest load of baloney. I would argue that kids in public school, that is not socialization, because socialization is built around society. In society, you are not kept with people of your same socioeconomic makeup, in your same age, forced to be in a situation where you are constantly told to stop socializing. Forced association is not socialization. Those are not the same things. And for whatever reason, we as a society seem to prioritize the latent effect of those kind of between times in a school day to feel like that justifies the 100% of your kids' social needs. And it's a whole, no. That's all you need to know. Homeschooling is expensive. It is not. You can actually find amazing free resources. I literally just sat here 10 minutes ago and filmed a video on middle school chemistry. That is an entirely free course and is truly amazing. You might have to search things out a little harder. I've always described it to, if you want to spend less dollars, you will spend more time as far as finding the right thing for your family. When you pay, you pay for convenience or someone else's expertise to tell you what to do, things like that. So it can be as inexpensive or as expensive as you choose for it to be. We have a homeschool budget, which I'll be filming another video on our homeschool budget coming up. But for us, we just took what we spent in preschool and slid it over, and that became their individual educational budgets, and I've never once hit it. But it's nice for me to know that that is there, because then it does help me kind of justify some of the pricier things that we do. So it does not have to be expensive. It can be, but just like everything else, you know, you can get designer or you could get DIY. It's up to you. It really is. My child has to learn everything at home. That's another common misconception. There are actually, as homeschooling becomes more and more popular, there are more co-ops where you can learn things. There are more homeschool days at various places. There are more hybrid schools where you go a couple days, but you're also home a couple days in the kind of university model. You can do dual credit classes. You can outsource. We take classes at the Science Museum or art classes at the art museum. I mean, it doesn't have to be all you. Homeschool does not mean at home. We are rarely here. It would be nice if we were here a little more often, to be honest with you, but it is what it is. So the first steps to actually start homeschooling, one, you have to have a desire to do it, which I think is really important. The next thing is going to be knowing your laws. So the different states do have different homeschool laws. It is legal to homeschool in all 50 states, but different states have different requirements. For example, I am in Texas, and we don't have testing or oversight or portfolio reviews or attendance or time or any of that. It's just you're supposed to check like 4 boxes as far as subjects that you teach, but there's never been anybody that I know of that's ever had anybody look over their stuff. So there is that. If you want just a really quick access to seeing what those homeschool laws are, you can always search your state and homeschool laws, or believe it's hslda.org or com. They have a map where you can just click on it and it will tell you the different things, because sometimes it does have to be an affidavit or a notice every year or testing or things like that. Generally, with more oversight over your homeschool does come something like a little bit of homeschool cost assistance. So you can either, get some of those things kind of reimbursed to you, or you are allocated certain funds to use certain state approved curriculums and things like that. But again, that's not something I have access to here in Texas. Sometimes they do require you to keep a certain number of days of attendance or hours, things like that. So know your homeschool laws is the biggest thing. Now, if you are coming to homeschooling, and this is even true for myself as a public school person who is the product of public school, even though my children have never been to public school, it can be really easy to get into this notion of thinking that you recreate a school day or recreate a school environment. And that could not be further from the truth. If that's a style that works for you, that's great. But going into it thinking that you need to do it for 8 hours a day and you need to have a designated space and desk and you have to do, it's not the case. So something that many people do ascribe to is deschooling, which is essentially It is not no schooling. It is that you kind of take a break and you get back to the very basic principles of loving the educational learning process and taking the school portion out of it. Because, and I would tell you, homeschool is honestly home education and not home school, because it's not school at home. Okay, so those are really important things to keep in mind. Something else that's going to be really helpful when you are getting started, we've already gotten rid of our public school, filter on our life, and we have figured out our laws. Well, now let's think about how your child learns. Are they a kinesthetic learner? Are they gonna learn perfectly great by you sitting down and reading aloud to them? My kids learn really well through games, which I love. What is their learning style? Because if you can pinpoint that, it's going to narrow down your field of options so quickly, and it's going to be so incredibly helpful, and it's going to help you get to your good place, your success place a lot faster if you start with a little bit of that insight on the front end. And that is also a balance of what works for your learner, but works for your family as a home education family. Because sometimes what works for me doesn't work for my kid, and what works for my kid, I couldn't fathom possibly working for me, but that is okay, because it is about the fact that we as homeschoolers are in service to our learners, but we're also in service to our home. So find something that does work for you. It can be helpful to choose a homeschool style. So I know that I'm an eclectic homeschooler. I've got a little here, a little there, a little here. There are some people who are, Charlotte Mason style homeschoolers, or nature learner homeschoolers, or unschooling and things like that. And so it can be really beneficial to know your style. I like a curriculum. I'm not usually someone who goes totally rogue and just appreciates the learning for the joy of the learning. I like to have at least some sort of measure or some sort of work to let me know that that is what is good. I like to have a bit of a plan. I like to check the boxes, make sure they're relatively on par with their public school counterparts, but that doesn't suit everyone, and I think that that is okay. So if you can give yourself a little bit of an idea on your homeschool style, that can also serve you tenfold in the long run. So picking and choosing curriculum, this is a big thing. How do you know what to use? Will you just tell me what's the best thing to use? There is no such thing as the best thing to use, because it does depend on your homeschool style, your learner's preferred learning style. So there is no best thing, because what I think is the best thing is what works for my family in my homeschool for my learner. And every single one of those combinations is different. It's just like a fingerprint. No home is going to be run the same way. No homeschool is going to serve the same learners, and it will be different. And it is different from one child to the next, even in the same home. So if you go and you look and you figure out that, my homeschool budget is $100, so I need to be looking for more of the free options, or my learner learns really well online based. We don't have a lot of space for a lot of curriculum material, so I'd like to keep it mostly digital and online. Narrowing it down in any capacity is going to help you out so much when it comes to choosing curriculum. Do you want something when you're starting out that is like an all-in-one? Do you want to keep the training wheels on and go for something that is like public school distance-based learning, a little bit something that is going to translate better if you change your mind? Do you want to do something like a Timberdoodle kit where you just say click buy and everything you need shows up at your house? Is it something that you want to deep dive every single little piece? Are you really passionate about history or math and you want to go and find the best possible source of history and math? It is all up to you. It is all up to you. It could be that your state's funds will only cover, these 10 options. So maybe you start with those 10 options as far as looking at what is going to work for you. Okay, so it is important to know how to test and adjust without overcommitting. So it is something that we do, maybe not as much as we used to, but it's definitely something that I recommend. And that is start with the big stuff. So if your kid is really good at math, start with math. And it is okay if you start this week with math and you haven't figured out language arts for 2 weeks. It is okay. So start slow and build up. As far as starting a new homeschool routine, you're new to homeschooling, we're going to start next week. Let's start with math and language arts and see how it goes. Start small, and you don't have to hurry up and buy everything and overcommit and overspend before you've actually tested anything out. I would go ahead and start with just 1 or 2 things, probably the most important thing so that you really can gauge where your learner is at. Keep in mind, you can also, almost every curriculum company has some sort of placement test on their website, so you can search those things out too. Now, homeschooling is all about flexibility. If there is something that you find isn't working for you, there is absolutely no shame, and I will say it all the time, even if it is homeschooling that is not working for you, it is okay to quit. Quit or pivot. I have said this in probably 1,000 videos. My formula, if I look at something and I'm using it and I could say, man, if I did this one thing differently, then I know that I could find success with this piece. That is pivot for me. So I'm going to try it before I totally give it up. I'm going to try using it some way that is not the way they've told me to use it, which you guys, if you follow for any period of time, you know I don't use anything the way that I am supposed to. Now, if I look at something and there is no way that I could make any bit of this work for me, it is not a good fit, and I would rather light this thing on fire than continue to use it another day. That's the time to quit. It is a time to quit. Now, I want to tell you, I'm going to be the first person to tell you, if you try this homeschooling thing and you're like, man, I am 2 months in, this is the worst decision I have ever made, nobody's made any progress, and I am ready to quit. First of all, don't quit at 2 months. Give it like a semester. But if your child is not making progress in some manner, if you are losing ground, there is no shame in deciding that you tried something and it was not the best fit, and to put your children back in a traditional model school. Please, please, please do not feel like just because you said you would, just because you said you should, just because you said you were gonna do it, that you cannot backpedal and say, you know what, I tried and it is not for us, and that is okay. What I don't want you to do is get so hunkered down in your ego, get so hunkered down in your inability to have a little bit of egg on your face that you go against what is best for your learner. If you are not constantly in service to the education for your learner, and this is a lot of responsibility, it is okay if it is not for you. We have trained paid professionals for this very reason. It is not for everyone. It is important to quit before you have done them a major disservice, okay? So don't get so hunkered down that you feel like you have to keep pushing through. However, don't get so discouraged in week 1 or week 2 that you just up and quit. It does take a while to find your rhythm, and that is okay. But again, if you can see the light on the end of the tunnel, if you can pinpoint where you should pivot instead of quit it, those are really good signs that you're on the right course, okay? Structuring your homeschool days. It is really hard for people to understand that a homeschool day is not 8 to 3. We can be done with homeschool. Honestly, it's like 2 solid hours, and they are getting such meteor education. You would not believe it. But what people don't always recognize is the amount of kind of like other time that is sucked up by being in school. Okay. So every time everybody's got to go to the bathroom, we're talking a half an hour. A 30-minute lunch is really like an hour. Going between classes, getting settled in for the day, just simply having everybody get their books out. There is so much stuff that is just kind of like wasted time in that sense. It's not educational time in a public school setting. So people think that they need to be doing all of this learning. And especially with homeschool, it's so easy to be like, you made eggs today. We cooked together. We baked. So much of that applies to education, and not enough people recognize how incredibly well-rounded an education can be when you do have a lot of those kinds of life lessons. Now, something else that is important to know is maybe how you intend for your days to flow. For myself, I like to have a personal schedule, meaning like from this time to this time I'm doing this, and this time to this time I'm doing this, but I don't like that approach when it comes to my homeschool. In my homeschool, I like to say first, then next, last, and not have it tied to time. That is what works for me. We also homeschool 4 days a week, because again, this is what works for us. Now, it is also really important to note that clubs, co-ops, classes, all of that also helps contribute to your homeschool experience, your homeschool results, your homeschool life. Now, you may be like, okay, but how am I supposed to do this for multiple kids, Shauna? First of all, something that I like to do, and my kids are 4 grade levels apart, I will combine whenever possible. So if we have a read aloud, everybody's reading aloud. As far as science, I like to group our science and history together and just have different expectations for the output from my different aged learners. I like to combine where possible. Not a lot of people do. So you want to take into account, what is your life going to look like homeschooling with multiple kids? Where can you kind of edge those corners? Where can you kind of make your life a little bit easier, because if you are going 150% for both kids or 3 kids or 4 kids, you are going to burn yourself out. And that's great if you want to work up to something like that. It's great if you want to group them. Say you've got a lot of older kids and a lot of little kids, you could group those into 2 different groups. But what I want you to do is take into account what your homeschool life looks like if you do have multiple learners. Like I said, I combine as much as possible. And I also am a big fan of having my kids work on things independently. They don't need me to hover. You don't need to hover. There are many things that my daughter can do. She can, my youngest, and she's for years, she can get out a lot of things and like get out her handwriting and do her handwriting sheet for the day. She doesn't need to be told, and she doesn't need me holding her hand to do those things. I'm not gonna lie to you, homeschooling isn't all roses. It can be really hard a lot of days. It can be really easy to get off track and really hard to get back on track. But with a good plan, with some good motivation, and for me, my benchmarks, so constantly checking in. I like to know how long my homeschool quarter is so that at the end of the quarter, I can evaluate where are we, how are we doing, should we adjust anything, which was really important for us this year because our year this year has just required a lot more flexibility. We've moved, we've had some really big commitments. And so it was really important for me to keep an eye on those benchmarks so that I knew where I needed to adjust. I could correct my off-track homeschool before it got too far out of hand that it became one of those things that was just really hard and really impossible to kind of get back on top of. There are going to be days when you doubt, because you will doubt. It is so natural. I have never regretted my decision to homeschool, but I have often doubted if I'm doing enough, if I'm doing the right things, if I am making sure that I am in service to my learner and not to my own ego. There are days when things are not going to go as planned, and I guarantee you no week is going to go as planned. And certainly for me this year, we had no idea we'd be moving. We had no idea we'd be selling our house. None of this was even on the radar, but here we are. So no year is going to go to plan. But it doesn't mean it's bad. It really doesn't mean it's bad. Something else that you can do kind of on the front end to help you later is figure out, and I have a whole video on this here on this channel, how to handle some of those criticisms. And something that I feel like we've done really well in our homeschool journey is that we constantly say, well, you know, because how long are you going to homeschool? And like, well, this is what's working for us right now. It's best serving her right now. So until it doesn't best serve them, then we're going to keep at it. And so things like that are really helpful if you can kind of can a few of those responses up front. Like, what about socialization? Just be like, yep. And it is okay if you don't respond to everything. Sometimes that is just as gratifying as giving a passionate response. And decide who actually deserves responses, because you're going to meet people at the grocery store at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday are going to want to know about this. And that just isn't where you need to spend your energy. So it is not worth it. If it's like, a loved family member, then yeah, maybe let them go deeper. But if it's not, just let it roll off. Okay. So what I want you to know, if you're starting, you do not have to have it all figured out right now, and you won't. You literally will not have it all figured out right now. But I hope that through sharing things like this, through the millions of videos I have put up on this channel in the last 5 years, that there is something for you that's going to speak to you. There is something for you that is going to let you know that this life is not only possible for you, for your family, for your learner. It is wonderful. But it is also not for everybody. So there is no shame if you need to quit. There is no shame if you want to talk it through. There's no shame. If you have any more questions here, the people that come here and watch this channel and share in the comments are wonderful. They are genuinely helpful. They are happy to answer any questions. If you're looking at a curriculum and I haven't used it, if I don't have a video on it, drop it in the comments. Someone here will help you because they are great and wonderful. And I have learned so many things just simply by sharing. People will come and tell me about new things I didn't know about, new things, free things. It's just a wonderful place to be. So you don't have to have it all figured out right now, but a couple of those, knowing your state laws, knowing if you can get some tuition money back, those are things that are good to know. Homeschooling is an evolving journey. I am not the same homeschooler that I was 8 years ago. I am not even the same homeschooler that I was a semester ago. But it's a journey, just like everything else. Your spouse isn't the same person you married. Your kids aren't the same that they were 3 years ago. You are allowed to evolve on this journey. I have gone through so many phases as a homeschooling parent, educator, It is okay. You're not meant to stay in the same place. We have legs and not roots. You are meant to try new things. I'm always looking for the next thing. I'm always researching the next thing. I look into every single thing that everybody sends me. I promise I really do. And it is so fun. So give yourself some grace. Allow your own evolution and also the evolution of your learner. Maybe this year they're an auditory learner and next year they just want to sit and quietly read to themselves, and you have to let that go. Welcome. I hope that you found this helpful, entertaining, or informative. If you did, please scroll down, hit the big red subscribe button, turn on that bell for notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. As always, you can find me right on down in the comments or over on Instagram at Making Everyday Magic. I hope if you are new to this way of life, drop down, give us a wave. You are welcome here. We are building a wonderful homeschool community that is inclusive, that is happy. That's one more thing, guys. If you can, start searching out, usually on Facebook, homeschool groups in your area, just to get socialization, just to get some people to go out with in the middle of the day. And even if you don't form bonds with those people, use group discounts, because group discounts to things, if you can go to the zoo in the middle of the day for free, you should do it. So search them out for no other reason than self-serving group discounts on things, but definitely start searching them out. It is great to have the hand-holding and the networking that comes with that. So don't hesitate to do that. All right.